Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender, game published by GMT Games, designed by Salvatore Vasta. This is the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. I'm Jan43. We're getting ready to enter into 1943. The Germans failed to collapse Russia, and so from this point on, the Russians cannot be collapsed. So it will start turning into a slightly different game. Germans will be on the defensive, and everybody else will be on the offensive. We will begin with the weather track. Where's my Figure 8 card, which is always on the wrong page. There we go. And we roll for the January weather in the cold zone. A 3 makes it poor. In the mild zone, we roll a 5, which leaves it at severe. And in the warm zone, we roll a 4, which leaves it at poor. So, the only thing really changed was the cold zone. That takes care of weather. No one's going to declare war at this point. The economy, leave this up, let you take a look at it. I am pretty sure the Germans... I have to go double check something over here in Finland. Yeah, they would have 2 there. And I have a couple of Hungarians I think I need to move to. So I'm actually going to give 2 points, 1 to the Hungarians and 1 to the Finns. Not the Romanians, the Hungarians. So I will start at 28 instead of 30 with the Germans. So that's what the starting things will look like. The British are up to 28. The Russians are up to 30. Germans were at 30, but they gave a couple points away to their allies. So, and now we'll go on to strategic warfare. That should have been enough time for you to take a look at that. The Russians are at +2. The Germans are at +1. When I look at the faction card, I have a submarines for the Germans. The Allies have a partisans and an ultra, so they'll probably use their partisans because they can't really use it anywhere else. The Russians don't have anything, so I'm going to have to take my chances on the Russian die roll because I really want to try and make sure that the Western Allies have the German die roll. I want to have theirs to try and keep the results from making me lose more factories. So the Germans versus the Russians. The Germans roll 6 + 1 is a 7. The Russians roll a 3 + 2 is a 5. And a 7 to a 5 is a diamond. So the Russians can't get back 1, but the Germans can. Hello. So German factory loss marker goes down to 1. That's good news for the Germans. Then we got to go over to the West, where the Germans are +3. The West is +2. I'm just taking a look here. There are no bombed markers here in Germany, so it's just a matter of going to combat commitment. The West can't really use their partisans until they get into France, so they're going to go ahead and commit it. And, of course, the Germans had already, as I had stated earlier, were going to commit their submarines to try and stay ahead of the game. They want to stay at that 1 marker, if at all possible. The Germans roll 5 + 3 is an 8, halves down to a 4. And the West rolls a 2 + 2 is 4, halves down to a 2. And I believe 4 to a 2. Yep, the West loses 1. So the British factory loss marker goes up to 3 again. And the Germans can't go any lower than 1, so they have to stay there. And that is strategic. Oh, nope, not quite. I have to roll some dice. German submarines are coming back in 3 turns. 1, 2, 3. They'll be back in April. And the partisans for the Western Allies comes back in 5 turns. Ouch. 2, 3, 4, 5. Get back in June. Okay. That takes care of strategic warfare, strategic movement. The Germans need to get their marker off of there. I've been trying to figure out what I should... Oh, there was a mistake. This should not be flipped. I noted it near the end of the last video that I made a mistake. I had paid to replace all my airplanes in the east, and I hadn't moved the production points correctly, so I thought I had points left that I could flip a unit, and I didn't. So I'm flipping him back where he should be. I really don't see any good strategic move for the Germans at this point, other than they might want to do something here to bolster the Italians. Let's go ahead and move the Africa army. Then we're going to move it into that spot there. That's a good defensive spot. Clogs up the whole Italian boot for a turn or two. Keeps the British from running all the way north into southern Germany. Then we go on to the west. West really doesn't have one. Well, yeah, they really don't have one at this point. Yeah, I don't see one for the west. At least not this turn. And in the east, I'm pretty sure I didn't have one for the Russians either. I just have to take this off there. Dude. Do that for sure. And then... I don't think I have anything... I want these airplanes back to keep them away from Germans. I just don't see... So I'll put that airplane on top there. I don't see one for the Russians. So on to German operations phase. And you know what? I didn't start my timer. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Take a few minutes off and start it, and hopefully I'll stay within my time frame here for the German operations phase. The Germans don't really have a lot to do. I'm going to have to take a chance on the 18th Army. I don't see a way to bust it out with the units that I have available. So I'm going to do some kind of dancing around here. First, let's do the 2 Hungarians. He's going to move back to here. Oh no, he goes... Yeah, he goes to there. This guy goes to here. Or does he? Yeah. This guy then goes 1, 2, 3 on the railroad, 4, 5 on the railroad, 6. Kind of just being a garrison, he's allowed to go there and do that. The German garrison will go 1, 2, 3. And in the 8th Army will go 1, 2, 3. And we're going to have to leave that one alone. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 German and 2 Hungarian. 4 German, and the Hungarians use theirs. Now let's go do the Finns right away. They're going to activate this one and this one. This one goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 down the railroad. And this guy moves 1 up into the mountains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll take me 2 turns to get to Leningrad, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And that's the 2 Finnish ones. Let's go do the Swedes. Do we have anything to do with the Swedes? Yes, we do. Remembering to do all my minor allies. These guys go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and get on the border with possibly conquered Finland to keep them from just running in and conquering Sweden. And then the other one was to move this guy. There's no good place to move it. I have too many cities. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll move them into Malmo for now. And that's the 2 Swedes. Don't know if I have to move a Romanian yet or activate him for a combat, but we'll see. So let's get back into Russia. Was there any other shenanigans I wanted to try to do? What do I have on my faction card? I do have heavy artillery on my faction card. So maybe I try to take Rezev again? Since it's poor weather, I should probably try to do in some of his airplanes as well. To limit their sorties, since I'm at full. So we're going to have the first Luft attack the first air. That's what we're going to do to begin with. It's poor weather, so the Russians are at -2, and the Germans are basically at 0 because they're +2 for German, -2 for poor weather. So Germans roll a 2, which is not going to work. And the Russians roll a 1. So we each take a sortie. The Germans will not activate sortie. The Germans will try at -1 to -3. 4 minus 1 is a 3. And the Russians, 2 minus 1. So we got a 2 for 1 there. Let's see, now the Germans would be -2 and the Russians would be -5. So the best they can get is 0, or is a 1. There's a 1/3 chance that I can get another 2 for 1. What the heck, I'm going to try for it. The Germans at -2 roll a 1. Of course, they didn't get it. And the Russians can only get a 1. So the Russians go up to 4, and I go up to 3. Now I'd need a 50-50. I think I'm just going to stop there. Going to have the third Luft go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Going to attack the 4th air. Right? Yeah. So that makes me at a 0 for the Germans and only -2 for the Russians. Now we'll see what we do here. Going after the guy in Kalinin now from Bryansk. Germans rolled a 6. The Russians rolled a 6. But they're -2, so it's a 6 to a 4. 6 to a 4 is 2 for 1 split. That's not bad for the Germans. Now the Russians would be -4. And the Germans will be -1, so they're going to try it again. Another 6. -1 is a 5. And at -4, the best the Russians can get is going to be another 2 sorties. So they're up to 4. The Germans are only at 2. So they're going to hit them one more time, try and knock out an airplane, I think. At -2 to -6. So the best they can get is a 1. And the Germans roll a 4. -2 is a 2, so that's 1 each. He's got a full airplane there that I can't do anything about. I think that's all I'm going to do there. However, I think this airplane in Rostov, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5. The airplane in Rostov is going to take a sortie, and it's going to move up to where the Panzer is. Oh, why do I have him activated? I want to do that. And he'll have one sortie on him there. The idea is I want to be able to cover most of my line here. The only buddy that doesn't have coverage is the 10th. So, I can't cover everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, I could. I'm going to actually move this airplane to here. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can cover the 18th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can cover the 10th. So this airplane can cover any attacks here on the around the Don and stuff. And I'm going to need to move another airplane down, but I'm going to wait till I get some sorties off of them. And then these guys up here can handle anything here in the center, I think. The question is whether I want to... Yeah, I think I do. I'm going to take the 5th. It's going to go against Bologoya. Let's see, they're -3. And they're -6. So let's see if I can roll a 6 with the guys in Smolensk. I did not. So that's a 1-for-1 split. And then Veliluki will go, and it'll be a 1. I can only get 1 on him, so it doesn't matter what I roll. And I get him knocked out, and then this guy is going to fly up here, take 4 sorties on himself, and knock this one up to 6. So, not the best way to do it, but it's, you know, my planes will go down to -2 sorties, his will go to 4. So it'll be easier for me to control them next turn, possibly. And maybe get one of my airplanes moved further south. I think I gotta move the guy in Smolensk down to like Orel or something, so I have more coverage with my airplanes. And let's see, was I gonna do any attacks? See, that would be 4 production to attack Reserve. And I was thinking of attacking here, which would be another 3. So I think we're going to go ahead and do some attacks. Here we go. Let's do the Reserve one. It's 2 for the armor and 1 for each infantry. So that's 4. And that's this guy, this guy, and this guy. And he can't get any airplanes in, so I might be able to go ahead and throw in an airplane if I really want to. Let me see what my odds are right now. Well, the Russians start off at 0 because they're just regular old infantry. The Germans start off at 2 for being German, and the Panzer is the primary, so it's +1 for an armor and 4. And I've got +1 for each of my guys. But then I'm -3. -1 for the river, -1 for the city, -1 for the weather. So I think maybe I need to throw in the airplane and the heavy artillery. Heavy artillery would make me +4 to 0. I really want to save my airplanes a bit, but definitely think I'm going to throw the heavy artillery in here. Oh no, he's got airplanes down here. I need to save the heavy artillery for down there. So we're not going to put the heavy artillery here. But which one do I really want to take? That's good debate. Well, up here I could get to that same +4 by using a tanks marker and an airplane. And then I can use an airplane and heavy artillery to try and take out the 45th. I'm not sure that that's a good move. I don't think I'm going to actually do that attack. That doesn't look like that's such a good attack at this point. I think maybe we're just going to concentrate on Reserve. Let's see if we can just take one city. Okay, so We go to combat commitment. The Russians will, definitely be committing a tanks. I am going to throw in a heavy artillery. The Russians will throw in a tanks. And that means the Russians will be at a +1. I get +2 more for the heavy artillery. The question is whether I throw in a tanks marker to get an extra +1 and be +5 to +1. Like I said, I don't think I'm actually going to attack outside of runs. I'm going to save my production points. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the tanks marker in here. So basically all or nothing for this one attack here. And the tanks marker will make one of these guys instead of +1 as a +2. So just to recap, that's 3 for the Panzer, 2 for German, 1 for tank, 2 for a guy with a tanks marker, 1 more. So that makes it 6, and then 7, 8 for heavy artillery. Then -1 for the river, -1 for the city, and -1 for weather brings it down to a net of +5. The Russians get +1 for their tanks marker. So it's a +5 to a +1. Germans roll 3 + 5 is an 8. Russians roll 2 + 1 is a 3. So we have to go check. Combat results table. An 8 to a 3 is a DD. So he is flipped and retreated. And we will take it with the infantry unit so that we have retreat routes. Willpower doesn't matter at this point, but that is it's a way to be across the river for the Germans if they get a halfway decent weather roll going into. If they can hang on to that city for a while, it's a supply source for the Russians. It's a place where they can put reinforcements, and it's something they have to take the time to take back. So, breaking the Volga up here, maybe not. I don't see it being that critical, other than it just kind of makes a little bit more work for the Russians to try and bust through. So let's put stuff back on the turn tracks. Tank markers go back on the next turn here in February. And the Germans have to roll for their heavy artillery. Of course, they rolled a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not coming back till June. And I really am not sure I want to spend any more production points for the Germans. They have 20 left. They have 12 in the east. And this is 15. And then they could bring down this convoy so they can start supplying this airplane. That would be 18, and then flip the Panzer, or they could just flip these 2 units and not do the convoy yet. They flip those 2 units. They don't have anything in the production track, right? No. So they could move like 1 more infantry if they want. Oh, wait. Did I have... No, I don't have any stray infantry in the west. Oh, I can't flip that guy because he's been strategically redeployed. So I need to keep 15, 18, 20 would be doing everything I need to do right now. I don't think there's a critical move over here that I need to make. So I'm going to stand on my 20. Yep. And then for supply, everybody but this guy. This guy goes into low supply. Now, the reason why I'm doing that, if the Russians manage to not, hit me twice and flip me and destroy me, next turn I could put myself into no supply and then remove the unit. And in doing so, I wouldn't lose a will point for losing the unit. So I didn't see a way to extricate him anyway. Let the Russians spend some production points to try and kill him. If they fail, I can get him out without a will point loss. If they succeed, it's a will point loss. I think I was going to lose them anyway, and I was in risk of possibly losing a whole lot more if I wasn't paying attention. So I thought I should start thinking defensively here with the Germans, limiting my losses, trying to slow down the Russian advance as much as possible. We'll see how that works. And that, folks, is the Axis operations phase. He went into no supply, or low supply. The question is, see, I could take him up to 6, and then I could replenish this airplane down by 2. Or I can bring him down to 3 and then do him in the future. Right now, I think I'm going to do him in the future because he's like my only guaranteed +1 against the Russians. So, yep, we're going to leave him at low supply out of Helsinki or Oslo or Sweden's capital there. Stockholm. One of those places is supplying that unit at low supply. Okay, that's the German operations phase and beginning of turn. We're going to end this video here like I've been doing and then pick up with the West in the next one, next half of this turn. So you've been watching Dren608 do the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of Unconditional Surrender's main event scenario. If you like the video, you like what you see, please subscribe to my videos so you don't miss any future episodes. Leave me comments, and I will see you in a little bit with the second half of this turn. Bye-bye. Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to actually be doing an addendum to the German turn because I forgot to do the Italians. There was some things they were going to do. They were going to move this infantry 1, 2 to guard the toe. They were going to move this militia 1, 2, 3 to guard Catania. And then they were going to activate this unit with this convoy, which will go there and get a sortie, and this unit will end up in Palermo. It was something I knew I was going to do, and I just totally forgot to do the Italian move altogether. So that's an addendum to the turn. This is what the Italians would have done. I wanted that done before I started the West. And now we will sign out as the end of the Axis turn, Axis operations phase. And we will see you in a little bit in the Western and Soviet operations. Bye-bye.